Mark 7, Traditions of Men versus the Torah. Sadly, many Christians will quote a single verse out of Mark 7 to justify eating unclean animals, which isn't right, and eating unclean animals today is still a sin. Eating unclean animals will always be a sin. I want to briefly explain the difference between traditions of men and the commandments of God. Traditions of men is the oral law, man-made. It's called the Talmud. It's man-made. Commandments of God is God's law, not man-made. It's called the Torah. After Israel's exile, they were so careful to keep the Torah that they actually added another set of laws called the oral law, the Talmud. This actually broke the Torah. How so? They added more laws to the Torah to keep from ever breaking the Torah itself. So for example, the Torah has commandments of keeping clean. But the elders decided to go one step further and added a tradition that no one is to eat unless you wash your hands and clean the dishes. This tradition over time became a law to the people. They treated it like it was a law from God. The elders enforced it on people as if it was given by God himself. So remember this when we read Mark 7. The oral law is man-made tradition. It's called the Talmud. Traditions of the elders. Traditions of the elders. Remember that when we read Mark 7. Secondly, commandments of God is the Torah. God-given laws. It's called the commandments of God. Remember that too. Now let's read Mark 7, 1 through 5. The Pharisees and some of the scribes gathered around him when they had come from Jerusalem, and had seen that some of his disciples were eating their bread with impure hands, that is, unwashed. For the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they carefully wash their hands, thus observing the traditions of the elders. And when they come from the marketplace, they do not eat unless they cleanse themselves, and there are many other things which they have received in order to observe, such as the washing of cups, pitchers, and copper pots. The Pharisees and the scribes asked Yeshua, "Why do your disciples not walk according to the traditions of the elders, but eat their bread with impure hands?" And Yeshua said to them, "Rightly did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites, and it is written, This people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far away from me. But in vain do they worship me, teaching the doctrines and precepts of men, neglecting the commandments of God. You hold to the traditions of men." He was also saying to them, "You are experts at setting aside the commandment of God in order to keep your tradition." Again, you are experts at setting aside the commandment of God in order to keep your tradition. Yeshua later on explains that these traditions were being enforced, and not only were they being pushed on people, but they were actually causing people to break God's law. Children would follow these traditions of men, and in doing so actually neglect the Torah, which says to honor your parents. That was only one example of many. Yeshua concludes that eating food with dirty hands does not defile your body because we were created to withstand any germs from dirty hands. These traditions were causing people to lose sight on the purpose of the Torah. They were so focused on man-made traditions that they actually were breaking the Torah itself. Yeshua saw that these elders were hypocrites. They were so worried about tradition, and yet they were filled with sin. Again, this chapter is not declaring all foods clean. In some Bible translations, man decided to add to the Bible by having in parentheses, Jesus declared all foods clean. They added to God's word, just like the Pharisees were doing. Don't you see that? The elders added rules, and Christians take away tradition and Torah altogether. Both sides are guilty of adding or taking away from God's word. Jesus never says that all animals are declared clean to eat. Again, the whole chapter is about washing of hands and pottery before eating, and how these traditions actually cause many to stumble and break God's commandments. There's nothing in this chapter about the dietary laws. I hope this chapter makes more sense now with the knowledge of spotting the phrases traditions of the elders or traditions of men and discerning it from commandments of God, the Torah. Yeshua never sinned. He never abolished the Torah. He followed God's commandments to the T. Matthew 5:17, do not think that I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I did not come to abolish, but to fulfill. Please pray and seek the truth as I did. Thank you.